congenital and acquired heart disease. So first of all, we will study with the acquired heart disease affecting the cardiac tissue and function, which does not have its presence at birth and usually secondary to an external agent. So initially, I would like to briefly tell you about the cardiac anatomy. In the cardiac anatomy, the important structure we will discuss about the great vessels. The great vessels, the important vessels are the superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, aorta, and the pulmonary artery and pulmonary veins. As we have already discussed about the coronary arteries, that there are two coronary arteries. One is the right coronary artery, which divides into the acute marginal and posterior descending artery, and there is the left main coronary artery, which divides into the left anterior descending artery and left circumflex coronary artery. And as we all know that the heart is comprises of four chambers, that is two are atria and two are ventricles. Atria and ventricles are separated by interventricular and interatrial septums. And between atria and ventricle, there lies the tricuspid and mitral valve, and between the ventricles and the great vessels that include the aorta and pulmonary artery, there lies aortic and pulmonary valves. So mitral valve is basically comprises of two leaflets. Otherwise, the tricuspid valve, aortic and pulmonary valve is comprised of three leaflets, and they are tri-leaflet valves. So coronary artery disease, basically the heart muscle beats 60 to 100 beats per minute and almost 3 billion times during the lifespan of a human being. This activity requires continuous supply of oxygen and nutrients, which are supplied to the heart muscle by coronary arteries. In atherosclerosis or coronary artery disease, fatty plaques develop within coronary arteries and block blood flow. This can cause chest pain and heart attack. Genetic factors like and positive family history, high fat diet, obesity, smoking, and sedentary lifestyle all increase person's risk of developing a coronary artery disease. In this picture, you can see there are multiple blockages in the coronary artery, including the right coronary and the left main coronary artery, as well as LAD and left circumflex coronary artery. So, due to this blockage in the left anterior descending artery, you can see in this picture here there is a apical infarct due to the blockage of left anterior descending artery. So as we already discussed that this is the harvesting of the saphenous vein graft for bypass surgery. This is the harvesting of the radial artery graft which we use for bypass surgery. So introduction of heart-lung machine is very important because with the help of heart-lung machine we can operate a patient. So this heart-lung machine was actually invented in mid 1950s by John Gibbon, which laid the basis of open heart surgery as we know and practice it today. So this is a picture of heart-lung machine which we use in Dow University of Health Sciences Civil Hospital. So as we already discussed about the treatment options of the coronary artery disease, now we will discuss about the valvular heart disease, which is the second portion of the acquired heart diseases. So this valvular heart disease includes the disease of the aortic valve, mitral, tricuspid, and pulmonary valve. And two important pathologies, we will see that the regurgitation and stenosis. So according to cardiac physiology, as we already remember, that during systole, the aortic and pulmonary valve opens and mitral and tricuspid valve closes. And during diastole, aortic and pulmonary valve closes and mitral and tricuspid valve opens. This is the main and the major portion of the cardiac cycle. So what happens in regurgitation and insufficiency? There is a leakage or a backflow of the blood across the closed valve. And during stenosis, there is an obstruction of forward flow across an open valve. In aortic stenosis, the main pathological factor can be because of congenital, can bicuspid, can be because of rheumatic and degenerative valves. Here is a picture of the aortic stenosis in which you can see the bicuspid aortic valve with the fusion of the commissures. Aortic stenosis, here is the pathophysiology of the aortic stenosis. Here you can see because of obstruction of the aortic valve, there is a left ventricular hypertrophy. So the classical symptom of aortic stenosis include the angina, syncope, and congestive heart failure. Why there is angina? Angina is mainly because there is as you already seen, that there is a left ventricular hypertrophy. So there is a more muscle mass, and that more muscle will require more blood supply, which is not possible properly. So there will be angina and heart attack. And why there is syncope? Because there is an insufficient supply of blood into the aorta, and later on the heart will decompensate and will lead to congestive heart failure. So in the treatment of aortic stenosis, initially we give medical therapy which treat the symptoms but not the cause. So proper treatment involves the replacement of aortic valve, which can be with the help of the bioprosthetic valve, and we can also replace the mechanical aortic valve. So in this picture, here you can see the surgeon has already opened the aorta and aortic valve has been excised. On the right side, you can see the already implanted aortic valve in position, and there are two types of prosthetic valve. One is the tissue valve and other is the mechanical valve, which is also called metallic valve. Other pathology include the aortic regurgitation, which include the important causes with the abnormality of the leaflet, which can be because of rheumatic heart disease, which can be because of bicuspid aortic valve, which can be because of degenerative or endocarditis of the aortic valve. Other cause of regurgitation of the aortic valve include the dilatation of the annulus. The dilatation of the aortic annulus can be because of aortic aneurysm or dissection. Inflammatory arteritis, which can include in syphilis, ankylosing spondylitis or Ritter syndrome, or it can be because of inheritable Marfan syndrome or osteogenesis imperfecta. Aortic regurgitation pathophysiology include initially in acute phases, there will be a pulmonary venous congestion, but later in the chronic phases, there will be a decompensated type of heart failure. The symptoms of the aortic regurgitation include the dyspnea on exertion due to pulmonary venous congestion, inadequate cardiac output, which lead to fatigability and diminished exercise tolerance. Now we will discuss about the mitral regurgitation. The cause of the mitral regurgitation can be because of the alterations of the leaflet, commissure, or annulus, which can be because of the rheumatic heart disease, which can be because of the mitral valve prolapse, or which can be because of endocarditis of the mitral valve. Alterations of left ventricle and LA size and function will also lead to the mitral regurgitation, which can be because of the papillary muscle dysfunction because of the either myocardial infarction or ischemia, HOCM, that is hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, left ventricular enlargement, and left atrial enlargement from MR. In the pathophysiology of the mitral regurgitation, initially there will be a chronic compensated phase in which there will be eccentric hypertrophy, increased size of LA with the progressive dilatation of the left atrial cavity. But with the time, there will be a chronic decompensated type of heart failure will occur with depressed contractility of the left ventricle, decreased stroke volume, increased left ventricle and diastolic volume. Further dilatation lead to progressive MR. So symptoms of mitral regurgitation include fatigue and weakness, dyspnea and orthopnea, and right-sided heart failure. So here in the picture, you can see there is a mitral valve prolapse and the surgeon has excised the redundant or excessive leaflet of the mitral valve and then plicated the remaining portion of the mitral valve, which is called mitral valve repair, to deal with the mitral regurgitation. In mitral stenosis, there is a obstruction to the blood flow across the valve. So what are the causes? Mostly the mitral stenosis is because of the rheumatic heart disease. But it can also be because of mitral annular calcification, or it can be because of congenital heart disease. In the pathophysiology of mitral valve stenosis, you can see there will be a dilatation of the left atrial cavity. The normal area of the mitral valve is 4 to 6 centimeters square, and symptoms will begin when the area will reduce to less than 2 centimeters square. Critical mitral stenosis is there when the area reduced to less than 1 centimeter square. The symptoms of the mitral stenosis include the dyspnea, which is because of pulmonary venous congestion, the fatigue, which is due to diminished cardiac output, and depressed exercise tolerance, palpitation, and hemoptysis. The treatment of symptomatic mitral stenosis include the surgical treatment and the percutaneous treatment. In the percutaneous treatment, we do percutaneous balloon valvuloplasty in a non-calcified and pliable valve. What we do in the percutaneous intervention, we just pass a balloon across a stenosed valve and then we inflate that balloon to open the valve. In this picture of X-ray, you can see a probe, which is the probe of the transesophageal echocardiography probe, which look like a snake in the X-ray. So surgical treatment of the mitral stenosis include the valve repair or the replacement. Initially, we try to repair a valve with the open commissurotomy, in which we cut the fused commissure of the mitral valve leaflet, which include the commissure between the anterior mitral leaflet and posterior mitral leaflet. If the repair is not possible, then we will proceed with the mitral valve replacement, either with the bioprosthetic valve, that is a tissue valve, or with mechanical or metallic valve. Other pathology involving the acquired heart disease is constructed pericarditis, in which there will be a thickened fibrotic and adherent pericardium which restrict the diastolic filling of the heart. Another important pathology is post-MI ventricular septal defect, या post-MI VSD, that complicate 1 to 2% of all cases of acute myocardial infarction. The first successful correction was reported by Cooley in 1957. So as I told you in the last lecture, that interventricular septum is supplied anteriorly by the left anterior descending artery and posteriorly by posterior descending artery, which is a branch of right coronary artery. If there is a blockage in the left anterior descending artery or in the posterior descending artery, then the blood supply to the interventricular septum will compromise and will lead to infarction in the wall of interventricular septum. And because of this infarction, when this infarcted portion rupture, then it will lead to post myocardial infarction VSD. So here the surgeon has opened in this picture the left ventricular apex, and through the left ventricular apex, he is going to repair the hole in the heart, that is the post-MI ventricular septal defect. Now we will discuss about the congenital heart disease. It is a general term to describe the abnormalities of the heart or blood vessels that are present from birth. Most arise from faulty embryogenesis during gestational weeks 3 through 8, when major cardiovascular structures develop, and comprises of 1% of live births. There are 3 major classifications or categories of congenital heart disease. One is acyanotic, other is cyanotic, and third one is the stenosis or atresia. In the acyanotic type of congenital heart disease, there will be a left to right shunt. In cyanotic heart disease, there will be a right to left shunt. And in cases of obstruction, there will be a stenosis or atresia. Stenosis is basically incomplete obstruction, or atresia is called complete obstruction. So here are the examples of the acyanotic type of heart disease, which include the atrial septal defect, ventricular septal defect, patent ductus arteriosus, and atrioventricular septal defect, that is AVSDs. So here you can see the normal heart on the left side. On the right side, there is the heart with the ASD, in which there is a defect in the interatrial septum, which allows the blood to shunt from the high pressure chambers to the low pressure chambers, that is from the left atrium, which has more pressure than the right atrium. So the blood will shunt, that is the oxygenated blood, which will shunt from the left atrium into the right atrium. And this will lead to pulmonary hypertension. Other defect is the ventricular septal defect, in which there is a defect in the interventricular septum between the ventricles. So blood is shunting from the high pressure ventricle to the low pressure ventricle. That is, blood will shunt from left ventricle into the right ventricle. It will also lead to pulmonary hypertension. Other pathology which is very important is the patent ductus arteriosus. In the intrauterine life, the ductus arteriosus permits the blood flow between the aorta, distal to the left subclavian artery, and the pulmonary artery. In a full-term infant, the ductus usually closes within the first day or two of life. In premature infant and in infant with respiratory distress hypoxemia, the ductus may remain patent, causing a permanent structural defect in the wall of PDA. So it comprises of 90% as isolated defects, and remaining 10% of cases it is associated with either VSD or coarctation of aorta or pulmonary stenosis or aortic stenosis. So in cases of the cyanotic heart disease, it is a congenital disorder which is manifested by a right to left shunt, resulting in diminished pulmonary blood flow and permitting unoxygenated or desaturated blood to enter into the systemic circulation. Important examples of cyanotic heart diseases include tetralogy of Fallot, transposition of great arteries, truncus arteriosus, tricuspid atresia, and total anomalous pulmonary venous connections, which is called as TAPVC. So tetralogy of Fallot is one of the most common pathology which we'll see in our country. It comprises of 8 to 10% of all congenital heart disease. It is most common cyanotic heart lesion in older children and adults. All of the following features result in embryologically from anterior superior displacement of infundibular septum. So there are 4 anatomical changes of tetralogy of Fallot, which are the presence of ventricular septal defect, dextroposition and overriding of the aorta over the VSD. The third one is the subpulmonary stenosis with the right ventricular outflow tract obstruction, and which will lead to right ventricular hypertrophy. So this is called tetralogy of Fallot. If there is the ASD which is also present, then we will characterize that tetralogy of Fallot as a pentalogy of Fallot, because there will be 5 pathologies with the addition of a ASD. Here you can see the picture. On the left side there is a normal heart. On the right side there is a heart with the tetralogy of Fallot. In this picture you can see a large VSD, the subpulmonary stenosis, and aorta is overriding on the interventricular septum over the VSD, and there will be a right ventricular hypertrophy due to subpulmonary stenosis. And in the treatment of the tetralogy of Fallot or TOF, we do the complete surgical repair or the complete surgical correction of the TOF. And what we do, we just close the VSD and excise the major portion of the excessive muscle of the subpulmonary stenosis, and with the time that right ventricular hypertrophy will regress. So this is how we correct these pathologies. Other important cyanotic type of congenital heart disease include the transposition of great arteries. In this pathology, the aorta emerges from the right ventricle and the pulmonary artery emerges from the left ventricle. There will be a hole or defect in the interventricular septum, and there will also a hole or defect in the interatrial septum. And the patent ductus arteriosus in this case will remain open. So this is a very complicated type of pathology. Without ASD or VSD or PDA, it is not possible for the child to survive. So there is always a connection between the right and left ventricle. And the treatment option of this transposition of great arteries is called arterial switch operation. In the arterial switch operation, what we do simply is we do the arterial switches. We cut the aorta from the right ventricle and transpose it back into the left ventricle. In the similar way, we switch the pulmonary artery after cutting and then anastomose that pulmonary artery into the right ventricle. So this surgery is called arterial switch operation. Another pathology of congenital heart disease include the truncus arteriosus. In truncus arteriosus, there is a developmental failure of separation of the embryologic truncus arteriosus into aorta and pulmonary artery. Results in a single great artery that receives blood from both ventricles accompanied by an underlying VSD, and that give rise to systemic pulmonary and coronary circulation. It comprises of 1 to 4% of all congenital heart disease. In this picture, you can see on the left side there is a normal heart, on the right side there is a heart with a truncus arteriosus. Here you can see there is a large great artery or the truncus, in which there is because of failure of the separation of the pulmonary artery and aorta into a separate vessels. So because of the failure of separation, there is a single great arteries with a single valve, which is called truncal valve, and below that there is a large VSD, which is mostly present. So the treatment of the truncus arteries involves the surgical treatment, in which we just separate it, the aorta and the pulmonary artery, and then we reconstruct the pulmonary artery and the aorta separately. The last anomalies include the obstructive type of the congenital anomalies. There are two different types of congenital anomalies which involve in the obstructive congenital anomalies. One is the stenosis. Stenosis means the partial obstruction of the structure, and the atresia. Atresia means complete blockage or complete obstruction of the structure. So these congenital anomalies include the coarctation of the aorta, pulmonary stenosis and atresia, and aortic stenosis and atresia. So one of the most important obstructive congenital anomalies include the coarctation of the aorta, in which there is the obstruction in the aorta, which is mostly present in the area where the patent ductal arteriosus arises. So it is classified as either preductal type, which is before the ductus arteriosus, juxtaductal or ductal type, which is present at the level of the ductus arteriosus, and postductal type, which is present after the portion of ductus arteriosus. Other important pathology include the pulmonary stenosis, which is present. Pulmonary atresia is very rare, and aortic stenosis, which is because of the presence of the bicuspid aortic valve. In aortic atresia is also present, but atresia is rare in cases of aortic valve. Thank you.
Any question, sir? Question session होगा? हेलो
जी जी, किसी को कोई क्वेश्चन पूछना है पूछ सकते हैं.
हाँ बिल्कुल सर.
स्लाइड से नजर आ रही थी?
हाँ जी सर, स्लाइड तो अभी नजर नहीं आ रही मेरे ख्याल में.
नहीं, उस वक्त आ रही थी.
हाँ उस वक्त तो आ रही है, अभी खत्म हुई थी.
आप बोलेंगे तो मैं सेंड भी कर दूं.
हाँ नहीं बस सही, अब तो दिखाने की जरूरत भी नहीं, लेक्चर तो खत्म हो गया. अभी क्वेश्चंस कोई हैं तो वो क्वेश्चन आपसे पूछेंगे, आप रिप्लाई कर दीजिएगा. अच्छा चैट आप ऑन कर लें, खुला हुआ है ना चैट आपने?
जी चैट मैंने खोल लिया.
چیٹ چیک کر لیں, چیٹ میں کوشچن آئے ہوں گے شاید اسٹوڈنٹ کے.
کسی کو پریزنٹیشن چاہیے تو آپ دیکھ لیجیے گا.
ٹھیک ہے سر. اچھا کوئی کوشچن نہیں ہے؟
اگلا لیکچر ہوگا نا ان کا.
ہاں ابھی وہ 11:20 پہ ہے بالکل. ٹھیک ہے سر, پھر اینڈ کر دیں.
ٹھیک جی
ٹھیک ہے سر,
تھینک یو.
تھینک یو سر, تھینک یو سر, اللہ حافظ.